Counselor Accents Podcast. Two school counselors who love their jobs. Oh, and they happen to have Southern accents too. Bless their hearts.
I'm Laura Rankhorn.
And I am COVID Kim.
And together we are
Counselor Accents.
And this is a warning. If you are viewing this, I apologize for Kim's appearance. I apologize for the twig sticking up out of her hair. Is that a sorry attempt for a ponytail? What is that?
Listen, me and my grandma Evie want you to know how sick we are. I was not going. I do not want to, in any form, shape, or fashion, make you think that I am not sick.
Okay.
But yes, for 2 years, Laura, for
That's
2 years,
yes.
I've been in a bunker. I mean, like, has anyone been safer than me?
No.
As far as it's been hysterical.
I'd like to paint a picture for our listeners and viewers. You did go back to work, which honestly surprised me because I didn't expect you to go back to work.
Right.
But you went back to work only if your principal loved you, so it wasn't a big deal. He said yes, just to have you back, whatever. You would suit up in your beekeeper outfit every day, put on an N95 mask, put on a cloth mask, put on your face shield. And I'm not making fun. I'm just saying no one was safer than you, not to mention the plexiglass that you had around your desk.
I had that is so true. Every single thing that they said would bring some safety. And in my defense, I have a little boy that is medically fragile. And so that I wanted to be extra safe. And so my immediate family, my older child and his wife brought it in. That my daughter-in-law is a respiratory therapist. She went to work. It gets better the day she was due to have her baby, my grandson. She went to work and she said, I don't feel right. They put her in the closet of the hospital and they ran. And it was, they're just crawling with this stuff. So like she had to wait in that closet for a long time, and they came back and they'd run a test and they said that she was positive.
And didn't she send a text while in the closet saying,
yes.
I think I'm in labor?
Yes, she did. And she said, I think I'm in labor. I'm in the closet. So anyway, all of this to say that if you're having a baby during the week that Omicron is, by the way, we named the baby Omicron. I hope that is.
I love it.
I love it. So anyway, no, the baby's name is Oliver, but
close enough.
Close enough. I think that's we wanted to pay homage, but not too much.
Right.
So, anyway, I have laughed at her birthing experience as opposed to every other birthing. When you go to have a baby in the past, it's been like.
That's the only reason I had children, because it was the resort.
Like the resort treatment spot. No, not the week that it's at peak Omicron season. I think they literally threw them in, a room and it was a broom closet, and she basically gave birth to her by herself. So anyway, we all came down with this, including my little boy that is medically fragile, and he had the infusion, and he has been absolutely fantastic. Where I and my husband, who on top of all of this got a kidney stone.
Oh my goodness.
So anyway, in 1 week, we've all had COVID, a baby, a kidney stone. The kidney stone's still lingering. We've not given birth to that yet. So you may hear hollering.
Okay.
Does the other state say hollering, or is that just Alabama?
I don't know.
I know they do in Tennessee.
Yeah.
So anyway, if you hear hollering, it is him giving birth to said kidney stone. So yes, I'm sorry that this is the way I look.
You earned it. You deserve it. And goodness.
Yeah.
And let me also say, if you're a longtime listener, then you know that in February of 2020, we had just started our podcast, and I think we had 1 episode, maybe 2 out there. And that is when your son went into the hospital, and he was put on a ventilator. So
he was, yes.
This is so you've lived 2 years of your life, like major major
in
PTSD.
this, yes, in this major fear. And then, you know, as Mr. Rogers says, look to the helpers. It was so precious how we had completely ran out of infusions in our county. And I just made my doctor called and he said, we can't find anything. And I love him so much. And we just kind of put the word out there. And we had somebody knew where we could get this done. And so he, you know, it just, you have these people who are just doing incredible, wonderful things. And I know they're so tired. My hat's off to all the medical people, you know, that are out there helping. And in fact, Clanton had this done at night. And, you know, and the lady had was working 2 hours away, you know, that's where her home was. And so she stayed and stayed right with them. It's just like, as Mr. Rogers says, look for the helpers and you'll find them. And that brings some comfort. But yes, I do. I do feel like, you know, you run out of steam,
Yeah.
you run out of air, but it's been good. I mean, it's been okay. And I know that's not been the case with a lot of folks and a lot of family and a lot of friends. And, you know, our prayers are still with everybody. And as we all go through this together, as more than nationally, worldwide, as we all go through this together. So anyway, yeah, it hit me.
Well, you've had it, and I have been holding my breath for you and your family. I've been checking in. I just never know what other thing. Like, I was not prepared for the kidney stone. I'm gonna be honest. Yesterday, whenever I called to check on you, and you said, yeah, you said, let me call you right back. There's more. And I thought, oh my word, what else? So
what else?
Yeah.
Well, I just saw my grandson from afar for the first time in real lives just about 15 minutes ago. So anyway, everything is good. So that's as long as that's, you know, you put it all in perspective, and
is he,
all good.
Because the pictures are precious, is he even cuter in person?
Well, I will be honest with you. First pictures made me laugh my head off because it literally was my mother-in-law. I thought I have my mother-in-law as my grandbaby. But anyway, it is adorable though. I mean, he is, but it is just stinking cute. But you know, babies are funny looking to me anyway. Little, you know, little
squished
people.
up. Yeah.
Little squished up old man. And it was just really sweet. So this is the first little boy. I have a little granddaughter. So this will be the first little grandson. So I'm excited.
Well,
Can't
good.
wait to get a hold of him. I don't know when I can get a hold of him. That's the thing. I don't know. I mean, they're telling me I can come. They're telling teachers to come back now. It was 10 days, and then it was, you know, 5, and now there's like, hey, can you come on in? It's okay. There's nobody here.
Yes, it's definitely changed over the 2 years. So,
yes, Lord have mercy. Poor educators. I mean,
I know
we have really had it in our face, haven't we? We've all of us, all educators, and it's really hit our county and our state hard. So, and I think it has most people, but it's been funny to watch education but it continues on. So, in some form or fashion, it continues on. So,
and I am Pollyanna, and I live in this place of constant optimism, unless my thyroid is out of whack, and then it's hopeless. But
that's a whole conversation we're going to have.
Okay.
When you call me in the middle of us knocking on death's door to tell me about your thyroid being off, I'm like, oh, great.
Well, fingers crossed that we're back on the road to recovery. But anyway, but I am optimistic that maybe it's on its way out. Maybe now that every person has gotten the Omicron.
Every single person.
No stone left unturned. Maybe now it can head on out.
I hope so. But anyway.
I meant to send you a DoorDash. I'm going to be honest. I meant to do it. I forgot. I thought about it on my way to church. I thought, oh, shoot, now she's recovered. You know, there's a time limit on those things.
That's our problem. Yeah, there is. That's the issue with us, is that we always think what we could have done. But yes, that would have been nice. But, you know, I do live out here in the country.
Well, I know.
You're going to DoorDash from.
We still are trying to think of what we're going to get our supervisor for Christmas. So
I'm just picturing you running over to your neighbor Howard and see if he'll bring me some chicken nuggets or something and call it DoorDash.
I love how you keep throwing the sneezes and the coughs in for effect. Like our listeners are going to get Omicron via this podcast. That's how contagious it is.
Gary, this is actually a research project with UAB, seeing how contagious this is. I'm going to have to throw away this little ball thing that I'm talking to. It's just catching it.
Yeah.
We're celebrating an anniversary.
Happy anniversary to you.
Happy anniversary. I know my gift, your gift is out on your doorstep when you get through with this. I want you to go look and see.
Well, there is no telling because I've got so much stuff on my doorstep. It could be anything out there.
Well, I hope the dog didn't take it off.
Well, I am excited because today I have prepared a list of highlights from our last year of the Counselor Accents podcast. And that is my gift to you, is a trip down memory lane. You and me, all expenses paid, trip down memory lane.
Oh, is that what I get?
That's what you get.
Crap.
All right, so I've divided this up, our trip down memory lane. I have divided this up into different segments. So the first segment is resources, is what we're going to call them. I feel like it would only be fair for the very first thing to mention to be the counseling toolbox with Brent Cosby. Do you remember that episode?
Since I'm in love with Brent Cosby. Yes.
Since every week you say, I think we need to have Brent Cosby back on. I think we should have him back on.
Well, it started with you
dragging
me to go see him because we were going to speak and you know, I thought we needed to get ourselves ready.
Mm-hmm. And I said, when did we start that?
When did we start preparing? And so to hear him speak, he is so energetic. So we had him on and he was so much fun. He's just a very entertaining person. I love to hear him.
Yeah.
I'm going to re-listen to that one.
I think I will too.
Yeah.
But he gave us so many resources just in that episode. And it's like, I don't even know if he realizes how many resources he's giving because it's just one right after the other. It's like what do people say? Trying to drink water out of a fire hose.
Yes.
That's what it was
He's
like.
very ADHD to me.
It is.
Like that. Plus, he has that humor, and I love that personality. I'm drawn to that kind of person. The ADHD, hyper, funny person has always been my go-to person, and he is that person.
He is that. And that was one of our most listened to episodes ever. And honestly, I don't know if it's because we had new listeners listen to that, or if it's because he gave so much wisdom in that there were so many re-listens.
Yeah.
And really it was our 3 fans listened to it over and over again. And so that's how we got it.
It's amazing. I would love to have him on again because he alluded to, you know, we do a portion called that we do sometimes, and it's called Everybody Has a Story, and how we don't know what our student stories are. And that they have one, and then we listen to grown-ups and how their lives were affected through different maybe educators or how it could have been affected differently. And he alluded to a very interesting, sad story, but I still would like to have him on and listen to that story.
I'd like to have him on just to have him on. So
okay, well,
we're gonna make it
happen.
happen.
We're gonna make up a reason then. Okay,
we're gonna make it happen.
Yay! Thank you for taking me down. That is a gift.
Yes. Okay. Second episode, right on up there with Brent Cosby, I feel like is Tanya Kirschman. And we heard her speak in Vegas. We went once again. That was a session right before, maybe that was on Monday, but still we were preparing because we had several sessions we were going to be delivering there at ASCA. And so we had gone down to listen. We had picked out her session as one of the ones that we wanted to attend on that Monday. And we went to it, and so glad we did because once again,
she's a ball of energy. I mean,
she is, and just like she's another one that just the things coming out of her mouth, like everything, I feel like she's intentional in every single thing that she does. So,
Very creative.
and so because of her, I have a closet, and I'm not exaggerating. I have a closet full of those Amazon pockets that they send.
Me too. Me
My,
too.
my husband's like, "What are you doing with these?" And Ellie Blair every now and then will get them out and just start jumping on them. And I'm like, "No, those are for my students." So I need to move them to school. But anyway, but she was another one. And that was such a good episode. And yet another top listen because people love the tools and the
ideas.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that's a reward, is the bubble, is the Amazon packing or the
Yeah.
whatever you use for packing. It's a reward for students. And so she's talking about how you could just use free things or cheap things, and how something that ordinarily wouldn't be a big deal to a kid becomes a big deal. Like those, that's a big deal to get to pop those. So that's
Yeah.
really neat. And I use her Crayola, the well, it wasn't Crayola, that's the kind I bought, but it's the scented lip
Oh,
smack.
yeah.
And so it was just, if you've not listened to that episode, go back and listen to that. But I've bought a pack of those lip smackers that are scented and have used that with students, and teachers have watched that and picked that up. So anyway, she's just a lot of good practical. Rubber meets the road.
Yes, that was a great episode. And
Yeah.
let's just tell the story real fast about, we were in that session at the end. She was doing kind of like popcorn giveaways, not popcorn, but like just stand up and shout out your favorite, whatever. And so the very first question she asked was, "What's your favorite school counseling podcast?" And the very first person said, "Counselor Accents." And you jumped up. And now y'all know that I like to blend in. I don't like to stand out. Kim
Which
loves.
is so funny because
It
her
is.
head is like a giraffe above everybody else.
So, and Kim, you don't care to stand out. And so you jumped up, and I'm trying to pull you back down, but you jumped up and said, "We're here, we're in here." And I was like, I am going to die right here on the spot. That was fun. Okay, moving on to another episode that stood out to me. It was David Adams, and he was the director of Urban Assembly. And the podcast that he did was SEL Day, and why every school should focus on SEL. And that was such a fun episode, and he was such a fun guest. Remember, he kept that competition going between who was his favorite, you or me. I'm pretty sure I won.
Well, I'm up. Hey, hi, David.
Oh, he's there. Okay.
Tell her who your favorite is.
But I just thought that was such a good episode, and that was one of our top listens this season too.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I think it's because SEL is so, people recognize that it's so needed. I know my school system, their focus is SEL.
Yeah.
And so, and I also know that SEL is under fire a little bit in a lot of these states. And so school counselors are really having to advocate for why SEL is important. So hang in there, because it is important. And a lot of people are having to incorporate that into National School Counseling Week. But I think if you go back and listen to that episode, I think it will give you a lot of, what's the word?
Wordage.
Okay. Wordage for
wordage that is needed, and the why. And he brings a lot of, with his position, a lot of credential and a lot of knowledge. And it really was a very good, a good listen to just having your arsenal of the importance of this. So yeah, I hadn't thought about that one. So this is another gift.
See?
Thank you for reminding me. Yes, it is fun.
It is good. All right. So next, we had an episode right at the beginning of this school year with Dr. Julie Hartline about data. She wrote the book with Trish Hatch about hatching school counseling. And I would highly recommend everybody to go back and listen to that, just because data is always something that we need to stay knowledgeable about. It drives our school counseling program. So she was a great guest to have
And
on.
this is basically the Bible of school counseling data. So
Yes.
with this was a big thing in the school counseling world for this book to be revamped. So it was the shot heard around the world. I mean, if for school counselors, this is if you don't have this in your
Arsenal?
shelf. I've already said arsenal.
Oh, sorry.
So how many times do you want to say it?
This could
If you don't have this in your shelf, you need to get it. But this was a really that was a really important episode for school counselors and a good listen. Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. Okay. Moving on. I had forgotten about this one. So I'm going to be interested to see if you remembered it. And whenever I was taking my own trip down memory lane, this is one I want to go back and listen again. It was Karen Gross, and she was the former Obama policy advisor. And so she gave us a lot of tips on, as we did it at the end of the school year last year, but she gave us a lot of questions to ask and conversations to have as we close one year and look toward opening another one. And I don't think that she could have known how important and how valuable her questions are. And I think as I was going back through this, preparing for this episode, I thought that's one that I definitely want to go back because we're in the thick of it. We didn't realize how thick the thick was going to be. But one of the questions that she asked was, she said, have we asked enough questions about student mental health and well-being? And I'm like, you know what? Here we are. And I don't know that we did ask. I don't know that we could have. We didn't know.
That was a very interesting conversation. And you're right. It's almost like whether you did or you didn't, it's here, it's on us. And if everybody else is having the kind of year that we hear everybody is having, we're dealing with it.
Yeah.
That would be an interesting one that we might even intentionally replay at some point, like to put back out there. But go back and listen to that one. I will, because you're right. And she gave some rubber meets the road ideas. I like those practical ideas that she had.
That's what I was about to say too. That I remember her talking about trauma kits that are easy to prepare and give to all of your teachers, so that in the event there's a student that's having a moment right there in the classroom, it's a trauma kit. And she talked a lot about just having universal language among your school staff and your students, that they know that they can say something that's going to remind the teacher that they need to take a break or whatever.
Yep.
Yeah.
They need some coping skills.
Yes.
Yes, that was a really good episode. And my mind is going right back to that meeting with her and how impressive she was.
Yes.
And down to earth. And it was just, and I'm looking at myself now, and when I'm well and not drunk on medication, I'm going to kill you that I'm allowing myself to.
I just like it because I feel like today I win the crown. I look better today. You had to get COVID. You had to get COVID for that to happen, but
yes,
I'll take it today. All right. I would be remiss if I did not mention the two queens that we had on, queens of school counseling, Laura Ross and Olivia Carter. We had both of them on this past year. Laura Ross was the 2020 School Counselor of the Year, and God bless her, 2020, she needs a redo, I feel like, because it didn't end the way it should have, the way that she was deserving. And Olivia Carter, just precious. We love both of them.
Yes.
I loved getting this. We didn't get to meet Olivia Carter face to face at ASCA, but I love that we have Laura Ross's cell phone number and that we can text her anytime.
Calling her now.
We can call her now. Yeah.
I'll call her right now and get her on here right now.
Yeah.
She would go, who?
Yeah, exactly.
Who? If you don't stop calling me, I'm going to
have a restraining order. And we'll add it to our scrapbook of restraining orders.
Yeah, and Olivia Carter's going to have to get that crown off of her head. I mean, if we have to get her down and get the crown off of her head and give her that, we did promise her the big Texas Southern hairdo.
Mm-hmm.
So
I
anyway,
thought
I
of
feel like
her.
we're going to get to meet. Yes, because we just had her on again for National School Counseling Week talking about that. So I'm looking forward to getting to know her a little bit better. But that was two wonderful, wonderful podcasts.
Yeah. All right. So then that takes me into, and you alluded to it and set it up so wonderfully a minute ago, but it takes me into our segment that we started this year, which is Everyone Has a Story. And I don't feel like I could say anything more than what you said a second ago about this. Just, you said it so well that our kids have stories. We all have a story. And we said it in a couple of episodes back that we don't walk around with a button with our story on. And the sad thing is, some of these kids don't even realize what their story is.
Yeah.
We can see it, but they don't realize that they have a story yet.
Yeah.
But we started this segment to spotlight people that have overcome difficulties. And that it was born, I would like to say it was born from Reagan. Now, Reagan was not this past season, but the season before last.
Yeah.
And just hearing her story reminded us about the fact that everybody has a story. So that kind of got our wheels turning. Then we had Lauren Sisler on this season. She is the ESPN reporter who had not one, but two parents who were addicted to prescription medicine. Yeah. And so she talked a lot about the impact of that. And that was such an eye opener.
Amazing. Her life, her ability to overcome, and just that not being your typical family that we look at and say has these issues, right, and the tragedy that ensued. That was an edge of the seat story. Yeah. That was a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. And then that took us to Quan. And I had heard Quan's story and thought, I'm going to reach out and just see if he would come on our podcast. And he did. He wrote the book Sparrow in the Razor Wire, I believe is the name of the book. And I would highly encourage anybody to go listen to that story because it had so many elements of things that our students deal with, loss of a parent, and how all of a sudden in these families where the culture relies so heavily on the father in the home, how that changed things for that family so much. He moved across the country, and so he lost his friendship group and had to create a new friendship group, and then he wasn't accepted. And it's just a great, great story of what could happen.
I love the way you're bringing out that part of it when this is a story of murder and
I just feel like all of those pieces,
the prison part of it, but it is on the edge of the seat. That is one that we had a lot of feedback, and it went out past school counselors and educators into family members of people that listen. That was a very interesting. But when you listen with that school counselor ear that we have, and we think about what could have made a difference, and what would we, and that was why we do these stories. What can we do to possibly prevent or encourage? So that's one of my favorites right there.
Yeah. Speaking of one of your favorites, I know this one will be too. Liz Huntley. Oh my goodness. That was
More Than a Bird.
Yes. That was an episode where we were both ugly crying.
Oh.
And you had heard her story before, but I don't think it matters how many times you hear the story. But I had to, at one point, I had to leave. I had to leave you with it because I had to go fix myself up because I'd cried so hard and I could not pull it back together. So I had to take a minute and head on out.
This is spot on how education changed her life in a huge way. But that is an amazing, amazing episode.
Yeah.
Love Liz Huntley and her book.
Yeah. And I hate to bring this up, but at that conference that you were supposed to go to, but your condo
don't start
fell through.
Yeah.
She was kind of a surprise guest at that conference. And so I was able to meet her and get my picture made with her.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. But you're doing her Hope Institute. So
I am going through her Hope Institute.
next on my list was Kevin Honeycutt. The episode that we had with him, we recorded that, and he kind of falls.
Makes me smile.
Yeah, he kind of falls. He's in that same category as Brent Cosby.
I was going to say the ADHD all over the place.
Yeah,
just 1,000 ideas coming out.
Where he's brilliant because his brain's going so fast. But his story, I had read his book, Midnight Run. And I have even used it with my students because so much of what he talks about is relatable. Yeah. And one of the things that stands out to me about him was, I said stands out. That was his whole goal, was not to stand out when he was in school. He didn't want to excel. He didn't want to get in trouble. He wanted to just be that middle of the road kid that blended in. And I think that was the first time that I realized you got to look everywhere for kids that are struggling, I think before I read his book, I would tend to think that they would be those students that are consistently in trouble or failing or whatever, or, I could even see them being the top achievers because that's their coping skill. So it was an eye opener for me to look in the middle too.
Yeah. Oh, it was such a good, and for him to be a child and be so smart that he knew that he could be taken away if he didn't play his cards, he could be taken out of his home if he didn't play his cards right. It was really, it was sad. And it just reminds us of what we're doing and why it's important and what a difference we make. So that was a really good one. Yes. Thank you. This is all
You're
good.
Welcome. You're welcome. And then this year, something that we started doing this season, and it was really recently that we started doing it, we have added 15-minute Rubber Meets the Road segments on just those quick things that maybe you need to know about to change or add to or whatever your counseling program. We've talked about, and this wasn't anything to change, but we talked about maybe some tips on getting along with difficult people, whether it's coworkers, whether it's your podcast co-host, whether it is parents.
Your principal.
Right?
Because my principal called me, my new principal.
Please tell that.
He called me and he goes, please tell me you weren't talking about me when you were talking about difficult people. I said, well, now that you
were the inspiration.
Okay. Thank you for the inspiration. And I could not remember if I said, I didn't know what I had said.
Gave his name and address.
Yes, that it was him that was the inspiration for dealing with difficult people. So that was the very first episode he listened to, was dealing with difficult people. He's probably thinking, who is she talking about who is she talking about somebody in this school? Who's difficult?
He probably searched his podcast for dealing with difficult people to get some tips on how to work with you.
And it was me.
And surprise! Can't get away. But we talked about using the unsung heroes in your school and just making these people, making your school counseling life simpler by using people to be an extension of you. So we feel like those 15-minute Rubber Meets the Road segments are just a quick shot in the arm on really, and really it was born from the fact that we say this all the time, and especially on those episodes, but we are in the trenches with you. We're doing this day in and day out. And there are times where we look at each other and we think, how are we going to do this? How can we make our life easier? Our theme this year on everything that we do is keep it simple, stupid. And we say that to each other every time we talk on the phone. And one of the ways that we can keep it simple, stupid is by relying on other people to help us accomplish our school counseling goals.
Yes, keep it simple, stupid. And I just like to call you stupid sometimes.
And that's why I say it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that has been, and there have been other episodes that we did this year that were fantastic, but I just wanted to hit some of those, some that stood out to me for sure, some that I had forgotten and were fantastic. And just, I just wanted to have a conversation with you about some of our favorite moments over the past.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you getting that together while I lay sleeping and for the last week. So I appreciate you doing that for me, and I enjoyed it. And
Good.
it does remind me of a lot of resources that are in these podcasts, posticles in the podcastles. So I'm going to go back and give a little listen. So thank you, Laura.
And I will link all of these that we mentioned. I will link them in our show notes so that if you also want to go back and have a little binge listening episode, they'll be right there and easily accessible for you. So I'll also put these exclusively in our Facebook group. If you're not a part of that, please go join our Facebook group because we have a lot of conversation happening in there, some funny stories, and just it's a happening place to be. So it's more happening than it used to be. How about that? And follow us on Instagram. Don't forget to rate and review our podcast because that helps other people find the podcast, like your principal who was looking for ways to get along with difficult people. And is there anything else? Oh, join our mailing list because every now and then we throw out some freebies that will help you in your school counseling program. And so do all those things if you want more of us. And if you want less of us, then unfollow us on Instagram.
Block.